Hello my friends, welcome back to my channel. Apologies for the dark lighting and kind of unexciting background. Don't get me wrong, I like my shelves, but I typically like to start these out with beautiful natural lighting and all the bells and whistles, but I think this is kind of fitting for the kind of video that this is. I am going to be revisiting my old favorites from 2017. I was thinking back recently about some favorite romances that I really enjoyed in the past, and I was wondering are these romances that I would still like today after having read over 400 contemporary romances? Are these books that still stand up to my very specific taste, or are these books that I just read at the very beginning of my romance journey and now they're just not up to snuff? So I decided to purchase all of them in paperback form, and I'm going to be working my way through them over the next week, and I'm going to take you along with me. It is a really ugly week here in Texas, raining, potentially snowing even, and I'm going to be cooped up inside, and so I'm going to be reading all of these books. So first up, Culty by Mariana Zapata. This was my first real introduction, I would say, into sports romances. I think I might have read the Off-Campus series before reading Culty, but this was my first slow burn sports romance and my first Mariana Zapata book, I believe. So I'm very excited to revisit this one. In my eyes, this one is better than The Wall of Winnipeg and Me, but I need to reread it to see if that holds up. It's about a soccer player and her coach and a good age gap, so I'm excited to reread this one. Then we have Full Tilt by Emma Scott. This is a book that I always pitch to people who are looking for something that is kind of more of a soft romance, definitely angsty, tension filled, but with a hero who is not an alpha and not an asshole. And I want to see if I still like him and if I still feel like this is a good recommendation. I feel like I was constantly recommending this the first couple of years I was on BookTube, but do I still love this? A book that I remember having mixed feelings about at the time. Actually, no, I loved Slammed by Colleen Hoover when I first read it because this is another age gap romance. You'll maybe see a running theme here. I think these might be the only age gap romances. There might be 3, I don't know, in this stack, but this is a student teacher thing. I think she's a senior in high school and he is her poetry teacher or something like that. She gets into slam poetry, why it's called Slammed. So this one I think is going to be questionable at best, but I'm excited to retry it and see if it's a nice guilty pleasure read. Then we have Managed. This is actually what I'm going to be starting with because I just started it today. This is about a woman who is going to be, I believe, the photographer for a famous band. He is the manager of the band. He's kind of grumpy. It's a Grumpy Sunshine thing, and already in this first chapter, loving it. Spoiler alert. So love that. And then lastly, Paper Princess by Erin Watt. This I think was one of the first, if not the first, new adult book that I ever read, and it's kind of a bully romance situation. This was sort of the gateway for me into Punk 57 and some of the other bully romances that I've loved along the way. When I look at each of these books, I really see how my taste has changed and evolved, and also how my taste has kind of stayed the same in a sense. I love a good sports romance, I love a slow burn, I love an age gap, I love an emotional, angsty, tension-filled romance. I like, again, an age gap. Something that's kind of messy and guilty pleasure. I like a good book with a lot of banter, and I kind of sometimes occasionally like a rock star romance, so got that one. And then new adult bully romance. So it's this was the beginning. Will this be the end of these being my favorites? We're gonna see. We're gonna find out this week. Let's go ahead and get into the vlog portion of this video. All right, it is much later and I am changed into my PJs, obviously. I have gotten 80 pages into Managed. I think this is a 350-ish page book, so that feels pretty good. This is just as good as I remembered it. That feels really good to say because no matter what else I read for this video, knowing that this one is a slam dunk just feels really good. So this book's about our 2 main characters, Gabriel and Sophie, and they meet on a plane. Sophie is traveling to London because she is going to be interviewing for a job, and Gabriel is seated next to her in first class. He's upset about this because apparently he booked 2 seats next to each other so he wouldn't have to sit next to anyone. On the flight to London, they basically bicker and kind of tease each other, while at the same time Sophie is kind of comforting Gabriel because he is kind of a scared flyer. Even though he is this kind of strong, confident guy, he, still has some fears, which is cute. So she kind of holds his hand whenever they experience turbulence, that kind of thing. They have a little bit of a bond, and then they both find out that she is going to be working with him. I don't really think that's a spoiler to say because it happens in the first chapter of this book, and the rest of the book is them working together. He is a guy that is very stoic and doesn't really want to show emotions, and pretty much everyone thinks that he's I want to say personalityless, but they give him a hard time for being kind of this, aloof guy, and she obviously very much gets to him. He's also very attracted to her, but it's not insta love, it's not insta lust. They're not jumping in bed together immediately or anything. I do remember this potentially having a hookup component, and I think the back of this book kind of implies that they have a hookup situation, so I'll I'm wondering like how I will be with that, because I don't tend to love hookups in books, but if it is anything like the beginning part of this book, I know that the banter relationship is going to continue, so I'm just having a good time with it. Also, I think I failed to mention that Sophie is going to be the photographer and social media manager for a famous band that he manages, which is why the book is called Managed. So it's got kind of that like rock star romance vibe without having like a jaded, kind of like damaged rock star hero, although that does happen in like some of the other books in the series. I've actually read all of the books except for the last one, which is something that I might want to remedy at some point this year. Actually, you know what? I think I do have it on a list for a video coming up, so I'll get to it at some point. But this has been such a delightful way to spend my Monday night. I'm going to be switching to an audiobook, not this audiobook, but a different audiobook, but I will keep you posted as I read and as I get farther into this book over the next day or so, because it's fun. Happy Tuesday! I am now 50% into Managed, and I'm hoping to finish this one tonight. It is day 2 of being extremely cold here in Texas. I'm sick of it. We are not snowed in, we are iced in, and we can't really get out, but I had a delicious dinner that Hayden made for us, some chicken Alfredo. I'm feeling good, ready to finish this book off. Maybe tomorrow, no, definitely tomorrow, I will be in the same position that I am today, which is not doing very many fun things, but hopefully I'll have something fun to show you eventually during this vlog. But okay, let me tell you how I'm feeling about Managed. I'm still in love with this book. Everything that I didn't know that I needed at this particular moment, and it's just so nice to see a favorite from so long ago holding up for me. It's not that 2017 was so long ago, it's just that I've read so many romances since then, so I was like, is this really gonna hold up? And it is. I will say I didn't remember how slow this book is. Definitely a slow burn. I'm 50% in, and we have not even had a kiss at this point, which I like. And also, I know I said that I thought there were hookups in this book, but there's not. So basically, Gabriel enlists the help of our heroine Sophie for a problem that he's having. And I don't want to spoil it for you because I think that's part of the charm of the book, but it is a trope that I think a lot of people really will like. It's a trope that I feel like I don't see in books a lot now, but it's one that I like. Yeah, I guess I forgot how intimate and how, I guess, lacking in plot this book is. Like, Sophie and Gabriel are having a lot of interpersonal moments, they're having a lot of dialogue, which is important, and there's not a lot standing in their way, I guess. The band is on tour, they're on a tour bus, and, you know, they have these moments, I guess. She has moments with the band, and then also with Gabriel, and freaking delightful. I love every second of it. I think if you're someone who wants a, like, true rockstar romance, or if you're someone who gets really irritated when romances don't have strong plot lines, this is definitely not going to be your thing. But for me, as someone who just really loves a slice of life kind of romance, this is working totally good for me. And I like that it's kind of a different take on a slice of life romance, right? Like, we're not stuck in a sleepy small town. Not that I don't like that, but it's just a nice kind of change of pace and change of setting. So my goal tonight is to finish this one. I think I might have said that yesterday, but that wasn't happening. And then I'm going to start in on Slammed, which I looked up today. This is actually Colleen Hoover's first book. I had no idea about, and it was written in 2012. So I think this will be a really interesting book to go into. I seem to remember this being like really emotional, and I connected with that, I guess. So I'll be interested to see if I still feel the same way, and if this like holds up against some of Colleen Hoover's like newer books. Finish this one, and then I might get like 50% into this one and update you tomorrow morning. Jump scare. Okay. I need to find a way to like do this hair not so scary. I don't know if I can though. Like, we're gonna get cute, and then at the end of this clip, you're just gonna be amazed that it's the same person, okay? Okay. Frozen in Texas, and I can't leave the house, and we just ran out of our last chicken breast, so dinner should be an interesting adventure, but no one really cares about that, right? So I finished Managed last night, and it was so good. Just so funny. I looked at my Goodreads review. The thing that I said was that it was sexy, angsty, and something else. Okay, first of all, this book is not angsty at all. Like, there's zero fucking angst in this book. Barely a third act breakup. It's just delightful. Like, it's just so sweet. And is it a little bit over? I don't want to say overwrought. Is a little bit silly at times, yes. Is the slang that our hero uses maybe a little over the top, yes. What is it with like American authors trying to write British dudes and like just really overwriting like the slang terms that they use? Mate every 5 words, or wanker, or, you know, I mean, I get it. Those words are real words that people use, but you can just tell when it's like overwritten a little bit. And I definitely noticed that here, but it didn't bug me too much, maybe because I just liked the book and I liked their relationship. But I really liked that even though this was a really simple book, there was definitely a lot of emphasis on accepting people for who they are, and on, I don't know, kind of growing and changing. Gabriel definitely goes through a bit of a transformation throughout the book as he kind of accepts that maybe he can accept love, not cannot, but he can accept love. His sweet Sophie darling is maybe the person that could, you know, break through his walls. There's just not much else to say about this book. I feel like I've talked about it too much at this point, but I liked it. 5 stars. Like, it was just good. It was a good time. A book that's like questionably a good time. I have the books on the screen because I can't hold them up while I'm doing my makeup, right? But it is behind me. Slammed by Miss Colleen Hoover. Her debut novel. It's just fun going back in time, to be honest. Going back to 2012, going back to when this book was written. I didn't read it in 2012 for reference. It was 2017. All of these books I read in 2017. I went on my Goodreads shelves and found books from 2017, if that wasn't abundantly clear. This one, okay. Where to even fucking begin with this book? So this book's about our main character, Lakin, who falls for her next door neighbor pretty quickly when she and her mother and her little brother moved to Michigan from Texas. She's not having a great time. It's her senior year. She doesn't really want to move, but her dad just died. Her mom found a job in Michigan and they're moving, okay? She meets her next door neighbor, or like across the street neighbor. His name is Will, 21. She's like 18. They go on a date and they have a kiss and they just have this like magical connection, as all of the characters in Colleen Hoover's books do. And then she finds out that he is her teacher. So that makes things a little bit uncomfortable. Age gap is like 3 years, right? Like not really that big of a deal in the scheme of things, but with the relationship dynamic, the power dynamic issue with like a teacher-student thing, things get complicated. So they're having to fight their feelings for each other, and he can't be with her or even like really sneak around with her because he can't risk his job. He has to provide for his little brother after his parents passed away. So can relate on that level, I guess, that like both have deceased parents. She has her mom around still, but you get what I'm saying. They have like reasons to relate to each other. He cannot cross that boundary, and she's making that really, really challenging on him. I will say Lakin's like the hardest part about this book for me. She's someone who is very teenage, and this book reads very YA because of that. I think it's supposed to be a new adult book. Maybe the series kind of goes in like sexier directions. I don't remember them banging it out in this book, but she's kind of petulant and childish. She's constantly saying like, we should be together and like, you should just let me get my GED and whatever. And he's like, okay, we went on one date, first of all. Also, like, calm the fuck down. It's only a year, right? Like, if we are really meant to be together, like, we could just, wait a year. But she just won't let that happen, and she's really like testing his control. And sure, if he was like a true responsible adult, he wouldn't be able to be swayed by her. So I'm not saying he's without fault, but like, she is just so irritating. That she's 18. I probably would have been the same way. Just wow. Beyond that, I think that's like the first thought is that she's just kind of annoying me. My second thought is, wow, Colleen Hoover's writing actually has come a long way. I think that her writing is incredibly accessible, which I really like. I think there's something to be said for authors who don't try to make things too flowery, who aren't trying to like overload you with details and are just trying to like get you to feel things quickly. She does that. She does a good job at that. I think that's a really impressive skill because not a lot of authors actually have that skill. And so all these people scratching their head and wondering why Colleen Hoover is so successful, it's because her books are easy to read and they're fun and there's twists and whatever. Like they're fun books to read whether or not you're like down with her messages or like you're into her books. There's a reason she's successful. But this one's interesting just to see how her growth has happened over the past few years. I'm not even past few years, but since 2012, because this one, the first couple of chapters of this book, Lakin in Michigan, and she's talking about, wow, I just went like completely ghost. Gotta love camera settings. She has arrived in Michigan, right? She is talking about how she doesn't like it and she's unpacking and where's the coffee machine and I don't have appropriate clothes to live here, and I walked to the car and I opened the car door and I sat in the car and I waited for my mom, and just a lot of not even description, but just I guess kind of like description of actions, like this is what I'm doing with no thought behind it, right? And it's getting me to think because I want to write a book this year. That's one of my goals. If you didn't know, hi, hello, I want to write a book. And it's just interesting to see, I guess, some of the blunders she made or the mistakes she made when she first started writing. And I think that's like a very valid thing. You have to include enough details so that your reader is not completely lost as to like where the character is. You also have to kind of walk the line of not over describing things and not over describing place, because oh my god, I don't know how many chapters were at the beginning of the book where we're literally just Lakin talking about like, brother went across the street, played with his new friend, I'm wearing a purple shirt. I don't care. I really don't care about your purple shirt. Things have definitely picked up, and that is less of an issue the longer you read the book, but those first couple of chapters, I was surprised that like that wasn't edited. And it also kind of raises the question for me too. I do know that as an indie author, especially if you're like publishing on Amazon, you have a lot of power as to like if you want to go back and edit a book. And so it surprises me that like she hasn't seemingly gone back and edited this book more, like changed anything. Maybe it's just so beloved that like she doesn't feel like she needs to or whatever. But I just thought it was kind of an interesting thing because it's not like the rest of the book reads like that. The beginning of the book definitely does. So just an observation, just something I'm noticing as I read, but not having a bad time with it. It is a little bit annoying reading about Lakin and how she just like won't listen to Will, but I remember really liking that when I first read this book. I was much younger, so that makes a lot of sense, right? 6 years ago, how old was I? Early 20s, yeah. So I was like, oh, I totally understand where she's coming from. I definitely would have reacted the same way, whereas now as an adult, who's like nearly 30, I'm like, girl, come on, just leave that poor man alone. Like he's just trying to support his little brother. It's a fun time, and and the fun angsty time I wanted it to be, no. Is the whole slam poetry bit in here a little bit corny? Yes. But I'm live, laugh, loving, and I don't mind. Like, I'm flying through this book. Hello, happy Saturday. I feel like the last time we talked, it was a Wednesday, and I was telling you about Slammed. I did finish this book, and I'm 20% into a new one. We are gonna have to truck along because tomorrow's Sunday, I need to post this video, and I still have 4 books to read. So, it is what it is. We're gonna have a fun time. It's gonna be almost like a mini 24-hour reading vlog over the next day, okay? Let's chat. Slammed. So I finished this a couple of days ago, and honestly, I didn't initially give this book 5 stars. Like, I went on Goodreads and looked to see what my initial rating was for this book. The books that I gathered for this video weren't necessarily like 5-star books in my mind. They were just books I remembered fondly. And I think I honestly gave this one maybe 3 stars the first time around, and I think I'd probably give this 3 stars again. This was a perfectly fine rate. It was very average in my mind, but it does just really show you like where Colleen Hoover began and kind of the beginnings, I guess, of her greatness and the beginnings of just the things that she likes to write. We've got her signature plot twist at the end of the book. We've got really angsty tension between the characters in this book. Lakin and Will definitely have like a palpable chemistry, and they're trying everything to like fight this steamy passion that they have for each other, even though they can't be together. I don't know, it's a really tough one for me because I don't think this book is great by any means, but for a first book, this is actually a pretty solid read. Besides like kind of the clunky writing at the beginning, I do think this one was pretty good. The only like real complaint I have, I would say, is the ending of this book. I think the ending felt a little bit corny. I feel like it could have had a little bit more to it, right? So there's this like plot twist that happens at like the 70% mark of this book, maybe even earlier on in the book, and that sort of like culminates at the very last part of this book, like in the last couple of pages. I think it would have been nice to see kind of the repercussions of that near the end of this book. We're supposed to learn more about what happens in the next 2 books because it's the first book in a series, but I just feel like this book feels a little bit incomplete as a result of kind of the way that it ended. So I don't know, like, it was fine. I liked it, I think, more than I probably should have. I have complicated feelings about Colleen Hoover's writing, but I think that I have a lot of respect for her as an author and a lot of respect for her as someone who clearly appeals to a lot of people. So I don't know, I'm glad that I revisited this, especially since it's her debut novel. But yeah, let's move along. We've got other books to talk about. I cannot for the life of me find my copy of Fighting Silence by Ali Martinez. I've been reading it on my Kindle. I don't know, it disappeared between me talking to you about it in the intro and then me actually reading it. But I'm 20% in, and this is another situation I would say similar to Slammed. I gave that book 4 stars. It's not my favorite book in the series. It's the first book. I like the second book the best, okay? Anyway, it reminds me a lot of Slammed in the sense that it's trying to be kind of emotional, trying to be kind of angsty, not doing, I think, as much as other more modern romances do in that department, if that makes sense. I just think we've come a long way. So this one follows our 2 main characters, Till and Eliza. Eliza is an artist, I guess. She sketches a lot, and at the beginning of the book, Till is, I think, 12 or 13 or something when he first comes across Eliza, and she is in an abandoned apartment close to the apartment that both of them and their families live in. Kind of a seedy part of town, and there's just an abandoned apartment. And so she kind of hangs out there. She, kind of escapes her family and doodles. He calls her doodles in this abandoned apartment. Till comes in and he's kind of looking for solace one day. I think he's crying or something, or maybe she comes across him. But either way, they make this like their meeting spot for the future. They meet all the time, almost every day, to provide comfort to each other, to hang out, to just like escape their lives. He has pretty shitty parents. His mom is very neglectful to his 2 little brothers who can't take care of themselves. The dad, I think, sells drugs or something like that. He's just kind of like getting in with the bad crowd, and just both of them are pretty absentee. And then Eliza's parents are basically just completely absentee. Like, they don't care about her at all. They act like going to her graduation is a big chore. And so Eliza and Till form this relationship kind of outside of school that is really like personable and just comforting, I guess. Like, they are each other's rocks. But at school, their relationship is completely different. Like, they're not really friends at all. She has a boyfriend. He is sleeping with a bunch of different girls. He's on the football team. He is a fighter, and by that I mean he like goes to a boxing gym. That's something that he ends up doing kind of early on in the book, and that's kind of, I think, like what ends up happening in this book is like his journey to become like a professional fighter or something like that, professional boxer. But it's interesting, like the first part of this book is told in like tiny mini time jumps. It's like you see them at 13, you see them again in high school, you see them again like right when Eliza is starting college, and then at the part that I'm at right now, it's gonna jump another 3 years, I think, to when Eliza is out of college or maybe a senior in college. I don't know. This one's a tough one because it's similar to Slammed in that I think it's trying to elicit emotion in you. It's trying to like show you that these 2 are made for each other. There's a reason they should be together. Instead of showing us through action, there's not a lot to really glue us to these characters. Like, yes, we get to see Till and Eliza interacting, but I'm not really feeling like these two are a perfect match, especially since he's like kind of a douche and doesn't talk to her in a school setting. Like, I just don't really understand their connection. And I'm hoping, obviously, as the book continues, that we do understand their connection and maybe their connection deepens as time goes on. Ali Martinez does write a good emotional romance, but this one was written a long time ago, so like maybe her craft has grown, at least I'm assuming it probably has, the time since she has written this series. But I'm kind of on the fence about it. Again, like, I think if you've read Slammed, you know what I'm talking about. Like, I mean, if you've read any Colleen Hoover books, right, this sort of like unearned tension and angst is kind of what it's feeling like in Fighting Silence. So it's interesting that like that's a running theme too. It's interesting to see what books I was super into in 2017 and how my taste has either like stayed the same or changed. I think Managed, still pretty much the same. Slammed and Fighting Silence, same. Like, I still really love angsty, tension-filled books. I just think that I found some at this point that kind of go farther. But I'm going to continue on with this book, obviously. I think honestly, I'm probably just gonna finish it and then let you know my final thoughts and feelings, and then kind of tell you how I'm feeling about Full Tilt, the next book that I'm gonna be reading, and I'm hoping to finish that one tonight as well. So got a lot on my hands. It's already 9. That's a lot. That's a lot of things to get done. But you know what? These books are both like pretty short. Yeah, I'm ready to just get my PJs cozy up and read some books, and I hope you're ready to do that with me. I'm not saying that I've cracked the code to like novel writing or figuring out, you know, what makes a great piece of literature, but I have figured out a lot of things lately, and Fighting Silence was a disaster, frankly. Like, it was not very good. And I feel okay saying that because I love Ali Martinez's writing, and I have read some of her recent stuff pretty recently, like over the past few months, and it's good. She's a great writer. But this book and this series, and I don't want to say the series, right, because I have the entire series and I'm planning on rereading some of those other books at some point, but Fighting Silence was just not very good for a couple of reasons. The biggest one, in my opinion, was that there was no time for any sort of like emotional thread to be woven, right? It didn't seem like that was a priority. It was more about like setting up other books in the series, like they're interwoven standalones, and this one kind of honestly ended on a bit of a cliffhanger. The romantic relationship here was interesting, right? Like, the two characters slept together. We have Eliza and Till sleeping together at random times. They eventually enter into a relationship. None of the conflict of the story really revolved around the romantic relationship. Like, yes, he didn't want to like complicate things by being in a romantic relationship, like, even though they slept together a couple of times, that pissed Eliza off. Once he sees the error of his ways, they get back together really quickly. Like, there was no real conflict in this book, right? I'm not saying you have to stick to traditional story structure, but like, you need an inciting incident at the very fucking least, and you need a conflict and a resolution, and like, that was just not the case here. There were a bunch of like mini conflicts, I guess you could say, woven into the plot that like didn't matter very much. There were too many time jumps, and again, the biggest thing was that there was no emotional resonance here. There was so much dialogue and so much of these characters interacting. There was just no time for us to like sit and like have the characters feel their emotions, right? And here's the thing, I bitch often about the opposite being true in a lot of stories. I think sometimes authors spend too much time with our characters in their heads and not enough time with dialogue, but you do need a good healthy balance of both, right? I want to see the characters interact. After they have an interaction that like spurs the story along, they need to sit with those emotions. They need to think about what's happened. They need to be inside their head, right? Because otherwise, how the fuck am I supposed to know like what is happening in the story? Let's say you get into a blow up fight with the hero of the story. You're the heroine, you get into a blow up fight, and then the next chapter is just a completely different scene. Okay, well, what did that mean to you? Like, how did you feel about that? I have no idea, because you didn't even stop in the moment to think about it, and you didn't after the fact think about it either. And that's just not great storytelling. It's really frustrating. And again, the lack of like consistent plot also, I was just... And it's funny too, because I looked at my Goodreads review and I also noticed that like I said that I liked the characters and I liked that they had their own personalities and interests, and I'm like, what fucking interests? Eliza, I guess she likes to sketch and likes to doodle. She goes to college. We have no idea what her degree is. We have no idea if she graduated. She apparently had a job that she quits at one point in the book. We have no idea what that job is. She was not given any agency really, or like any personality. She was just supposed to be a foil for Till. And like, sure, if you wanted to make it like a singular POV story and it would be all about Till, that's fine. But like, at the very least, what was this bitch's what was her job? I'm not gonna rant anymore. I didn't hate this book. It's definitely a 2-star read if I were to rate it on today's rating scale, or like, you know, my current rating scale. I'm not gonna re-rate it on Goodreads. I don't think. I'm just gonna kind of leave it where it is. But this one was disappointing for sure. This definitely didn't hold up. It sucks. But at the same time, again, it'd be one thing if like some of my old favorites didn't hold up, and like the author, that was like their most recent book or something like that, and like that was all I knew this author by. But again, I love Ali Martinez books. She is so good actually about the emotional resonance in stories. So it's so interesting to see some of her earlier works not having that. So honestly, hats off to her for like growing so much as an author. I'm like really impressed with that, and that's like really inspiring to me. But let's talk about something else, shall we? Because I'm nearly 50 pages into Full Tilt by Miss Emma Scott, and this is really good. I'm liking this. At the beginning of this, I will say, feels a little bit stilted, but already there's like such a contrast between this writing and the writing in Fighting Silence. This one one, already off the bat, we're getting emotional threads here. Our main character, Casey, at the beginning of the story, she's a big rock star, and she is on the phone with her mom, calling her mom saying, hey, I've made it big. Like, my song's on the radio. Like, I'm doing so great. She's a little drunk when she's calling her mom because she's about to go on self-soothes with alcohol. And her mom's like, that's great, honey. Like, you can tell that they have a bad relationship, and that's instantly clear to the reader. I think it was maybe a little overwritten, but again, you like instantly know that that is a problem for her. And she ends up really drunk after the show, and she gets carted away by a limo driver named Jonah. He takes her to his apartment because he can't find a way to get her into the mansion she's supposed to be like staying at. They start interacting, they start having these conversations, and she's trying to break him out of his rigid routine. We know that he has a heart problem. In the prologue of the story, we learn that he gets a heart transplant, and he is trying to, maintain his health, take his medicines, and stick to a really good, healthy routine. And Casey is there to shake it up. Immediately, she's like, okay, I really need some, like, greasy food to soak up all this alcohol. And he's like, I have lean cuisines in the freezer. And she's like, I'm not eating a fucking lean cuisine. He's like, you know what? Okay, whatever. My, like, routine is already screwed up for the day. Let's do it. Like, I never break my routine, but I'm gonna do it for you. And I just love already, like, where I know the story's going. Like, I've read this book before, and it's obviously really tragic and sad, but I'm not getting choked up. I just like actually have something in my throat. Can I handle this emotionally? I don't know what the answer is, but I love this book. I really do. Excited to see Casey break down Jonah's walls. I'm excited to learn more about Chihuly glass. It's the first time I ever learned about Chihuly glass. If you don't know what it is, look it up. Anyway, he's a glass blower. Like that's his thing that he does. Industrial art. Go Emma Scott with a special interest. Talk about special interest. Literally the exact opposite of the last book. Like, there are special interests in this. These characters have personalities, and they have like interests and emotions, and they reflect on those. Amazing, incredible. I'm gonna keep reading this. I don't know if I'm gonna finish it tonight. I'll update you bright and early tomorrow morning while I clean my house and listen to the audiobook for Colty. I mean, I'm gonna read this before I do that, but just girly things.
I can have you not on it at all. Okay, lighting is questionable, but I just finished Full Tilt. And because we were in the Cane's drive-thru, I didn't cry.
Wanted to cry?
It was depressing. I've never read it before, and I cried the first time I read it. It has been 6 years, but it was still just as sad. Like, I don't really want to spoil it, because honestly, I think that that's part of the not charm of it. There's no charm. It's fucking sad. But you know at the beginning of the story that he has a heart problem. Yeah, I'll leave it at that. I'm sure you can guess what happens. But I enjoyed this book. The second time around, I thought it was really good. I will say, if you are someone who is cynical and you don't like sick lit, I don't think this is necessarily going to be something that like does it for you. Like, I tend to not pick up books with sick lit themes anymore. That was definitely my thing back in like high school. Everybody loves a little Fault in Our Stars, but
is that when someone's sick in a book? Is that what sick lit is?
Sick lit, okay. L-I-T.
Yeah.
If you can overlook the fact that Casey, the main character, is a little bit of a manic pixie dream girl, you will get something out of this book. I thought it was really sweet. Like, don't even know what to say about it. I just feel like you need to pick it up if you haven't. I think this is one that does stand the test of time. I think this one was published in like 2015 or something. It's an old book, but it was really, really good. And I don't think I've read an Emma Scott book that I haven't enjoyed, but this is definitely her best. I kind of want to read the second book now. I mean, I've read it before, but do I want to reread it? Yes. The answer is yes, because this is just like, it did things for me. Let me briefly tell you about something else I'm reading. Hayden's like, fuck you, bitch. I need to eat my cheesy gordita.
I don't give a shit at this point.
Briefly, let me tell you about Colty, because I was listening to this while I was cleaning my house today, and I'm 50% in, and this, on the other hand, is not holding up, which is so depressing because I loved this book. This was like my favorite Mariana Zapata book for so long, but I also think it was the first one I read by her, so I guess that kind of makes sense. So this book's about Colty and our main girl, Sal. He's the coach of her women's soccer team. She's like a professional soccer player, and he is the coach of the team, and he was like a world-renowned German soccer player. He's retired, and now he's coaching the team. It's kind of like an enemies to lovers sort of situation. I don't even know if it would be enemies to lovers. He like wants nothing to do with her, barely talks to her, and then at the very end of the book they end up fucking. Like, that's pretty much every Mariana Zapata book ever. I think my issue here is that I'm listening to it on audio, and while I love a good audiobook situation, I feel like it's making his responses even more monosyllabic than they like normally are. With just reading it on paper, I am kind of astounded that like this is a book that I liked. I guess I value dialogue a lot more now, and then maybe back in the day I valued vibes more, but he hasn't done anything like particularly nice for her, and I think that's something that like Mariana Zapata books do now. She has them. They are slow burns now, right? She still has this whole slow burn thing going on. That's her thing. She's never gonna stop it. But at least now she does have the heroes like do nice things for the heroines, even if they're kind of grumpy. In this book, that's not really that's not the case. I guess he like signs a jersey for her dad after like being an asshole to her dad, and I'm just like, okay, where's the spice here? Where's like the the chemistry. I think he's like helping her with her game, but I'm still not really like seeing it. I'm gonna cut it off here because I would like to enjoy my canes while it's not soggy. I'll get back to you with my like final thoughts on Colty. Like maybe it gets better, but I'm really not holding out hope.
Okay, so I'm like 70% into Colty, and it is certainly better than when I last talked to you. I feel like the update that I gave in the car with Hayden was like pretty shitty, so I'm so sorry about that. I am starting to like it more. Like the signature Mariana Zapata slow burn, you know what I mean? Like honestly, like right at that 50% mark, I don't even know when I updated you. I think it was maybe like 40% in, now I'm 70% in. At the 40% mark, I still wasn't really seeing any interactions between Colty and Sal. Now that I'm further into the book, they are having more interactions. They have this like friendship that is blossoming. Essentially started because Sal started offering rides, I guess, to Colty, or he keeps requesting rides because he has a suspended license, and I guess like his driver couldn't pick him up, and so now it's just like a thing. They've been playing soccer in the park together, and he has been like helping her with her game, but also just like having fun with her, because when he retired, apparently he like didn't play soccer ever again, which is absolutely wild, you know, for a pro soccer player. So that is kind of how their friendship is blossoming. And in this like past scene, this scene that I just listened to, Sal bringing him to her parents' house, he had like an appointment in Austin for a tattoo. He goes and gets that done, and then like comes with her to San Antonio where her family is. He like really gets to hang out with her dad and her you know, nuclear family. It's just really sweet seeing how integrated into the family he is, I guess, and like how excited they are to meet him, because he's a famous soccer player that that family really admired and liked. And it's basically like Sal's like childhood crush to an extent. So it's really cute seeing how it went from sort of like a hero worship to a disdain to a friendship. And I like that. I think that's an important distinction, because I feel like a lot of the time when you have this sort of like hero worship thing going on in a romance, it can easily turn into something where like the woman is just chasing after an uninterested man, and that's certainly not the case here. And we've also gotten hints that he is like attracted to her. Makes comments like, you know, how come you never have pants on? You know what I mean? Because she always wears shorts. She's obviously distracting to him, and like obviously women should be able to wear whatever they want, but it's clear that like he is attracted to her. And yeah, I don't know, I'm having a good time with it. It's cute. I don't know that like I'm enjoying it as much as I did the first time, but I also think like the really emotionally resonant moments happen so far into this book that it's like sort of hard to say that for sure. It is 9:30, I think. Is it 9:30? Yeah, it's almost 9:30 on a Sunday. If there's one thing that I'm unwilling to give up, it is my Sunday routine, which is to wash the hair, which you have seen delightfully slicked back. I never wear my hair like this on camera because it's ugly, but this is normally how my hair looks if I'm not on camera, because I don't like it on my face. But I need to wash my hair and then paint my nails. I've been doing that the past 3 Sundays. I mean, I always wash my hair, but I've been painting my nails every Sunday, and it has made my weeks markedly, decidedly better. How about? Like, it's just been a lot better. I feel cute when I have my nails painted. And I'm gonna finish this book, and I probably won't honestly start on Paper Princess, because even though I'm 70% into this goddamn book, I still have like an hour of listening to do. So I think Paper Princess is gonna be a Monday read, and it is gonna be the book that I read right before I post this video. Video was supposed to go live today. It's going live tomorrow. That's just how things are sometimes, you know? I don't know if you noticed, but I included a book in this video that I did not talk about in the intro of this video. Fighting Silence by Ali Martinez. Like, it was on my list. Like, I have a notes app list of the books that I'm reading for certain videos. It was on the list, and I just never introduced it. That's also why it wasn't in the pile of books. That's also why I was like, oh, where is this book? I can't find it. It was on my bookshelves because I never pulled it for the intro to this video. So anyway, I did intend to read it for this video because it was a favorite back in the day, but yeah, for some reason I just conveniently forgot about it. Oh, I did not conveniently forget about how cute you are. Oh goodness. His face is so dirty from his wet food. You're cute. Okay, I'm gonna go. I will see y'all bright early tomorrow morning with clean hair. I am posting this video even later than I expected. It's getting posted today, Monday. You'll be seeing this on a Monday, but later than I expected because I did not sleep well last night and I feel terrible today. Just took a COVID test. It's negative, thankfully, but I don't feel good. So I've been kind of like dragging ass a little bit with the reading, but I finished Colty last night. Yes, I'm finally back in my office so I can like hold up books. Last 2 books. Okay, Colty, I don't know what I would rate this on like today's scale, like today's star rating scale, because the ending of this book really enjoyed. I mean, for me, like the end of this book was like 4 or 5 star material. I loved the like admission of love on the part of Colty, like that declaration I thought was so sweet. I like that it kind of came full circle when it comes to the, I guess, childhood crush that Sal had on him. Not only in the fact that like they're getting together now, but just some of the things that happened at the end of this book. It was what I remembered, but it seems like all of the good things I remembered about this book were literally just the end. I really sincerely feel like this book could have been cut down, and I know everybody says that about really long books like this, And I think that's a valid criticism. Like, a lot of people just don't want to be invested in a romance for that long. For me, truly, I think the first 100 to 200 pages of this book are superfluous. Like, I just don't think they were necessary additions. And I'm not saying I needed Sal to get with Colty at the beginning of the book. Like, I didn't want to hook up or anything, but the beginning of this book is all soccer and not in a fun way. Like, I wanted to see more of him kind of coaching her, sort of like a Bend It Like Beckham sort of way. Like, I wanted there to be more one-on-one time with the two of them. Even if he was gruff and grumpy, I think that would have been nice. And I think it would have led to us caring even more about the romance here. So I don't know, it's a tough one for me. I still really do love this book. There's definitely like an attachment that I feel towards this story, and I feel like for sports romance, it just feels special. I like it. I mean, I don't think this is the most remarkable sports romance I've read, because I feel like I've been reading a lot of really good ones lately. And spoiler alert, the video you're going to see next Sunday is going to be a KU sports romance vlog, because I got an arc of Powerless by Elsie Silver, and I have some other KU romances that are coming out like this week that are sportsy, and I'm very excited about it. But anyway, I'm gonna leave it this at like a 5-star rating on Goodreads. I think I'd probably give it like 4 stars today. I don't think this is a full 5-star read for me, but I stand by my recommendation of it. It's still fun. So let's talk about something that's fun in like a kind of chaotic sort of way. Paper Princess by Erin Watt. It's exactly like I remembered it, but the writing is actually better than I remembered, which is nice. So this book's about our main character, Ella, like Cinderella, and at the start of the story, we know that she is in high school. She is going to school, just trying to make ends meet because her mother has recently passed away, and she's kind of just going through it, you know, just trying to make ends meet, trying to get a degree, like a high school diploma, so she can go and get a degree in college. She's very outspoken, very confident, and at the beginning of the story, she is asked to go to the principal's office by, you know, the principal, ostensibly, and she meets a guy named Callum Royal. He says, hey, from everything that I know, both of your parents are deceased, but I knew your dad and I am now your legal guardian. She is very shocked by this information. She has been kind of like staying under the radar and pretending that her mom is still alive so that she can go to school and like still have that guardianship and just look out for herself. And when she hears this, she is initially like very much not into this idea. She ends up storming out of the principal's office and is like, I don't want your help. And I think that's a pretty valid complaint on her part. Like, I remember reading this the first time and being like, oh my god, she's such an idiot. But this time around, I'm like, okay, yeah, I understand like why a random stranger. I would be like not super thrilled with the idea of like going home with him and his 5 boys. Anyway, she kind of storms off. She doesn't want anything to do with him. After this encounter, she decides she's going to kind of like move up the ranks of stripping, I guess. She's working at sort of a more G-rated, not G-rated, but like PG-rated club. Now she's gonna be going to like a full nudity club, I guess, so that she can earn enough money to get away from her current life circumstances and like away from this guy who's trying to like not kidnap her, but to her knowledge, yeah, like kind of take her away from everything she's ever known. She goes to the club that night and Callum shows up and is like, hey, you're still coming home with me. He basically like kidnaps her, takes her from the club and takes her back to his massive mansion with his 5 sons. Kind of tells her the deal, which is that he will give her $10,000 a month in cash for every month that she stays with them. And if she graduates and like lives with them for 2 years, she will get, I think, $200,000 additionally to go to her college tuition. She's like, this is a really great deal. Like, I really can't pass this up. So she decides she's not going to run away. She's just going to lay low and avoid these guys, these 5 guys. One of the guys is in college, but the other 4 live at the mansion with Callum and with Ella. And of course, they kind of bully her, especially Reed, who's just kind of giving her a hard time. He hasn't done anything super extreme, especially compared to some of the other bully romances that I've read. This was definitely, I think, the first bully romance that I ever read. This was like my introduction into the genre, and I was like very into it. I will say, like 100 pages into this reread, I wouldn't say it's like the most remarkable story or storytelling that I've ever read. I care for Ella. I feel like I know enough about her and her emotions and kind of what she's going through. I understand how like you could put yourself in Ella's shoes when reading this, because, you know, like who wouldn't want like free money essentially to like live in luxury? Since Ella has had a hard life leading up to this, she really thinks she can handle these guys and handle their bullying. So yeah, it's interesting. She's actually about to get her first car from Callum. He's gonna like get her a car so she can get to town or get to like school. And she went on a shopping spree, little adventure. She's gone to her first party, and the Royals, that's their last name, Callum Royal, have not decreed yet whether or not our girl is like acceptable in their eyes and like whether people should stay away from her. I'm assuming they're going to like tell the school that like she's a social pariah and you should just like leave her alone. I'm not hating this, but I will say that opening scene at the strip club, you know, you don't really expect to see that in a book that's labeled YA by Ferkos Reviews, and maybe that's just like a misnomer, not a misnomer, but like a mislabeling, because I feel like when this came out, new adult just like really wasn't a thing at the time.
when did this come out? 2016. Okay, so it's not that old, but I just remember how hyped this book was back in the day, and like how many people tell me to read this. I don't know what I initially gave this. I need to check Goodreads, but anyway, I'm gonna read more of this, maybe get 50% in and kind of let you know my thoughts and feelings. I'm not feeling any like romance or romantic chemistry between Ella and Reed, even though I know that's kind of her intended target or like intended romantic partner, but I don't know, so far,
Okay, so I am 50, actually like more than 50% into Paper Princess. I'm confused because not only does the review say on the back of this book a compulsively readable YA novel, but also it's categorized down here as young adult fiction. A little perplexed, frankly, as to why it would say that, because there's nothing YA about this book. So the part of the book I just read, we have we have Ella making out with Easton, the second oldest brother. I think the oldest one is called Gideon, but Easton makes out with our heroine, and she is like thinking of Reed the whole time, and I think Easton knows that. He like points it out or whatever. He's like, anytime you want a distraction, like let me know, I'll be that distraction for you. They, I guess, hang out again at a club. I'm like, how are these children getting into a club at a party? I'm not entirely sure, but they're like making out at the club, and they get kicked out of this club, and then Reed is like all upset, I guess, about it, and Ella thinks that he is sleeping with someone in a Range Rover because she sees like the Range Rover moving, and she has to drive a drunk Easton home. After that, they all go sailing as a family together, and Reed basically propositions Ella and is like, hey, leave my brother alone. If you ever need someone to like satisfy you, I'll be that person, and like, you know, you can lick it, suck it, and fuck it, I'm pretty sure is what he says. I mean, I'm sorry, like, already so much debate about whether or not it's okay for YA books to have any sex in them whatsoever. So, like, there's no way this is YA. There's this level of sexuality. This is a noodle book, okay? It's a noodle book. Maybe it just had to be categorized as that in 2016, but it's a new adult book. I like the thing that Ella does. She ends up tying Reed up because she wants nothing to do with him sexually, and she's like, hey, like kind of fooling him into thinking she's gonna, you know, do some stuff to him. And so she ties him up and then leaves him there with his pants down. So good for her. Love that for her. We're also learning more about Ella's past and Ella's father, because Ella's dad, Steve, like maybe wasn't the best guy. It's part of the reason why the boys don't necessarily like her very much. So yeah, like nothing really exciting has happened, but like it's definitely, again, like more sexual than I even remember it being. I'm looking at like the reviews and stuff at the beginning of this book, and I need to look up like who Aaron Watt is, because it's an author writing duo, but it doesn't say like what their real identities are. Okay, so I finished this mess. It was fun. Like, I definitely understand why this book gets the love and the hype that it does, because it's really fun. And I know in the last clip I wondered like why Aaron Watt broke up. I think it's because they just wanted to do like solo stuff. I figured out who they are. It is Elle Kennedy, which no surprise at all now that I think about it. And then Jen Frederick. I don't think I've read any of her stuff, but obviously I've read quite a bit of Elle Kennedy, and this definitely feels like an Elle Kennedy book to me. I had fun with this. Like, this is not necessarily something that I think if I picked up, not having read it before, like picking it up for the first time in 2023, right? I think I would maybe not love this, but I also think I would have had fun. I think I would have given this like 3 stars if this was the first time I was ever reading it. It's fun, and I feel like sometimes stuff just can be fun, and it doesn't need to be so serious, you know? Especially compared to a lot of the stuff that's on KU, and like no shade to KU. I love KU. I would love to be a KU author one day. Some of the stuff on there that is in the same vein of like bully romances, of, you know, going to like an academy or whatever, it can be a little dramatic, a little silly, and too many like dark romance elements. And like, yes, there's a little bit of like melodrama in here for sure, but I feel like this one was slightly realistic, and I like the characters. I feel like the characters really make this one stand out from some of the other ones that I've read. I like Ella as a character. I think, you know, she's kind of a self-insert in some ways. Like, you could definitely be her and like and sympathize with her, and I think I like that. Like, I don't dislike it. I know a lot of people don't like a self-insert or like a Mary Sue, but you know what? Fuck it. I don't really care. I like Ella. I think she's a fun character, and she had a lot of confidence, which I appreciated. The ending of this book was certainly a cliffhanger, and I'm curious to see like what happens in the second book. I've read almost all of these, I think. I don't know if I read the last one, but like I guess I know she ends up with Reed, but the cliffhanger is like, oh my god, is she gonna end up with Reed? So yeah, I don't know. This is fun, and I'm glad that I reread this. You know, with each of these books, I think about like how my taste has changed or stayed the same, and honestly, my taste has not changed that much, generally speaking, and definitely not with this book. Like, this is not a 5-star. I don't even know if I gave it 5 stars the first time I read it. I probably did, honestly. I like a good bully romance. I like something that feels a little bit maybe overdone. Like, I don't mind that as long as it's fun and fairly well written. fine. And it's funny, I was like looking at Goodreads reviews after finishing, and so many people were like, oh, the writing isn't that good. And I'm like, I'm not, did you seriously pick this up and expect it to be literary fiction? Like, I don't think our expectations were set correctly if you thought that was the case. But the writing in here is like fairly solid. I don't know. It did not distract from the reading experience, and that's all I'm asking for in a romance. This was fun, okay? I like a good bully romance. I like things that feel like a teen movie. I always will. I'm nearly 30 and I still like that, okay? What is the lesson here from this video? You know, I just wanted to read some of my old favorites from 2017, 6 years ago nearly at this point. And you know what? I had fun. I had a lot of fun with this video. I am glad that I got to revisit all of these books. Only one of the books, in my opinion, didn't totally hold up. I'm sad that I'm pretty sure I like recommended Fighting Silence like a lot back in the day. And it's not a terrible book or anything, but I think like almost all of these other books I think held up. Like, are they 5 stars? No, but it just is so fun and interesting to see like how much my taste has both changed and stayed the same. I think I'm looking for higher calibers of writing in some regards now. Like I definitely like something that feels a little bit more emotional. That's kind of a trend that I'm seeing is like I care less about the smut now and care more about the emotions. I still like new adult stories. I still like, you know, books in a school setting. I still like age gap romances. I still like sports romances. So, you know, if there's one thing I am, I guess it's consistent in my taste. And I'm not saying that that taste is always fantastic, and maybe you hate all of the books that I've talked about today, and you know what, that's fine. It was a fun time for me to reread some of these, and maybe this will inspire you to pick up some of your old faves if like you haven't got to read any of your old faves in a while, or maybe you'll pick some of these up if you are wanting to indulge in some like slightly older romances. But like I said, had a fun time filming this video for you. I think the next one you're gonna see is a 24-hour reading vlog, it's a romance reading vlog, and then Sunday's video is also a romance video. I'm going to be reading some sports romances. But thank you so much for sticking around. I know this video was a little bit longer than some of my other ones, but I love you all so much. Thanks so much for watching, and until next time.